The main thing that I've learned so far is that the vast majority of people dramatically overestimate their need for approval or their need to fit in, and they drastically underestimate what that costs them.
That was The Main Thing, the insightful, liberating wisdom shared by Trish Ring on episode 65 of our show. Today you'll get the whole thing. In this longer format show, you'll get a deeper dive into the wisdom shared by founder, psychologist, and horse whisperer Trish Ring. Get ready for a behind-the-scenes, less edited glimpse into my conversation with this thought leader who's reinvented her career several times along her life's journey and who's helped others find peace and break free from internal burdens. You'll hear about a life-changing trip to Africa, and you'll discover how and why Trish became a horse whisperer. Get ready for more stories and more expansive riffs on how to avoid the trap of people-pleasing while forging our own way in life. This is The Whole Thing with Trish Ring. Trish Ring, welcome to the Main Thing podcast. So great to have you on today.
Thank you, Skip. Happy to be here.
Trish, listeners will have heard me characterize you in a number of ways, but curiously, as a horse whisperer, can you tell us a little bit about that? Did you grow up in a family where horses were part of your life growing up?
No, I did not, although I'm a fifth-generation Texan, so there were horses in the pasture at my grandparents' farms, my great-grandparents' farms, but I did not grow up an equestrian, no.
Okay.
Basically, what happened was that my husband and I had a transformational journey to South Africa about 10 years ago.
Wow.
And we were, I know, we're getting there, though. We'll get to horses in a minute.
Trish, you take all the time you want.
So we went on safari, and we had been struggling with a few things. We had a child in trouble who is pretty stable right now, but we were planning our lives, planning out retirement. We had an opportunity when we got to Africa to take a great deal of encouragement, solace, and purpose from reconnecting with nature.
Oh, wow.
And I could not have told you that in the moment that that's what we were experiencing.
Yeah.
But when we returned home, we looked at each other and said, hey, I want that experience. I want to recreate that experience of paying attention to when the sun rises, when the sun sets, what's happening in the natural world,
Yes.
pacing ourselves in a way that's not so frantic, that's more in alignment with what's important and good and true and old, ancient.
Mm-hmm.
So our attempt to recreate that was our decision to build Blue Star Ranch in Cashers, North Carolina.
Okay.
And along the way, we decided horses. We need horses. We need land and animals. And I knew nothing really about how much pasturage I needed, how many barn stalls I needed, how to find a vet, how to find a farrier.
I wouldn't know any of that either.
So we dived in and we learned.
Yeah. Wow. Super cool. I think I need to go to Africa. You mentioned healing and solace and peace, reconnection. I could use that. I think I need to go to Africa.
It really was life-changing for us. And people who visit us at Blue Star Ranch tell us they experience the same kind of healing in some cases, respite definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
A chance for people to get off the grid a bit, although we do have fiber optic cable, so you can
Ooh,
connect.
really good Wi-Fi there at
Yeah, we
Cashers.
do.
Okay. All right. Just don't use it too
But
much.
that's right. But we do have a kind of purpose there. We want to offer space and an experience to people who come and visit us, friends, family. Some nonprofit groups come and do the horse work that you were referring to.
Okay.
That's our gift back to support uh, philanthropies, nonprofits that uh, have missions that align with our values. And we love the work.
Wonderful.
My work as a horsewoman is very much connected to my experience in Africa, is very much connected to my 3 decades of work as a psychologist, is very
Mm-hmm.
much connected to my writing. Uh, all of it flows because it comes from a desire to know myself better
Sure.
and throw a little, and throw a little bit of light on the path for anyone who's following along on a similar journey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That's interesting, important. Thank you so much. Let's tell our listeners, Trish, how you and I got connected and have begun to know each other. Would you like to start that story, and I'll chime in with some color commentary?
Of course. Well, we have a mutual friend named Betsy Wills who has done us the favor of introducing us. But Betsy, interestingly enough, I met Betsy at a horsemanship workshop at Blue Star Ranch. That's how I
Oh,
met her.
wow. Okay. So she came to
Yeah.
your place as a customer, so to speak, and you all met there in North Carolina.
She came to a team building retreat, which is what we offer to certain nonprofit organizations. And this
Okay.
has been several years now. And we just really hit it off. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with her after the work in the arena. And I think we stayed up late in front of the fire, just sharing stories.
Oh, that's the best. That's the best. So you
Mhm.
guys you're deeply connected. Betsy is fabulous. I love all my guests, but I'll tell you, Betsy, her show is episode 54, and it to this day remains the most listened to episode of all time. Trish Ring, what's the main thing you've learned in your lifetime so far?
Well, Skip, the main thing that I've learned so far is that the vast majority of people dramatically overestimate their need for approval or their need to fit in. And
Oh,
and
yeah.
they drastically underestimate what that costs them.
Wow. Okay. Are you like, we've met, and did you pick this because you're like, all right, Skip needs to hear this because this guy's struggling here in this area? I mean, come on. Gosh. Wow.
Uh,
So you've just hit me square in the heart with one of my main, that I've discovered is one of my main challenges in life is avoiding that desire to please others and give too much thought and bandwidth and attention to what others think. So that's been a big growth area for me. And I can't wait to dig. Can we unpack that and dive more into your wisdom, Trish? That's something that is near and dear to me.
I think it's near and dear to most people, Skip, even if they don't realize it.
Okay.
So people who are driven and work too hard, people who on the opposite end of the spectrum
Mm-hmm.
avoid challenge and stay in the middle road, people who have boundary issues and can't stay in their own lane
Yeah.
or tolerate too many people in their lane with them. All of those issues and many more, you can kind of drill down to most people's fear that if they pursue their own heartfelt, moral sense of what they need to do next, then they will somehow not fit in. They will somehow not have the approval that they think they must have in order to stay in their career, to stay, to appeal to clients, to sell that next product, to be, to be close to family. I mean, it's how we're made.
Right. For those who may have jumped ahead, Trish is, among many things, a psychologist. And so, Trish, I feel very confident in asking you this question for sort of a clinical angle on how do we get that way? Those of us like me who have struggled with people pleasing and giving too much thought and credence to the opinions of others, where does that come from in us?
Well,
are we born that way? Is it in our raising? Is it
great
genetic?
Questions. So I think there are two main reasons why people get caught up in the idea that I really need to be careful or else I won't fit in. The first is that, is we are hardwired to be community creatures. We're mammals. We're mammals, and we're supposed to live in a group. And, there was once upon a time in our evolutionary history, the reality that if we were ostracized, we might not literally survive. Right? Okay.
Sure. Okay. Well, that makes sense. So that's a reason one is a biological and cultural.
Yes. We have to cooperate. Yes. We have to cooperate in order to live together.
Yeah.
We have to have some sense of rule following in order to be a part of a community.
Yeah.
But we overestimate how powerful that is. We catastrophize. We do.
Sure,
we overestimate how powerful that is. And then the second thing that I think is going on, and I mentioned this to you before when we were talking, I think that sooner or later in everyone's life, as we move from childhood to adolescence to adulthood, we have to make a decision to disbelieve, to reject the lie that there's something wrong with us.
Yeah. I truly believe, I fully believe that, Trish.
So the extent to which you can reject that lie, the more likely it is that you'll go off path a little bit, that you'll make your own way, that you'll tolerate a little bit of disapproval here, or you'll tolerate the risk that you don't fit in here, but maybe there's someplace else where you fit in better.
Yeah. That was the word that was floating right there during that part of your conversation was risk. We might be more willing to take a risk and say, I don't care what people think. I feel called and compelled to do this. I'm going to give it a go. I don't care what other people might say or if some people stop hanging out with me and stop tagging me on social media, whatever silliness that fear might concoct in our brains. Trish, I want to ask you one more question, and then we're going to talk about your book a little bit before I let you go and we run out of time here. What is the downside for someone who has not yet had the courage to address that deeply and do work to get rid of it and to shed themselves of those chains? What does life look like, feel like? What might folks be struggling with that would say, I need to pay attention to Trish's main thing, and I need to spend some time there, and I need to do some work there? What does life look like, and what do those symptoms look like?
People who have not come to terms with how dependent they are on other people's approval or rules, those people actually look like extremely conscientious and sometimes high achieving people. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
Well, think about it. These are people who are working very hard to do well. Hmm? And that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
seductive, and to
And
do
maybe
more.
to do more,
And so
better overachieve.
overachievers are on an, a never-ending loop of drivenness.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the downside to that
Okay.
is, in general, people who are on this hamster wheel have a sense of,
Mm-hmm.
I can never do enough. How does this end?
Right.
If something goes wrong, is it my fault? Do I need to be working harder? How in the world am I
Right.
supposed to fix this? Now, in my own experience,
Okay.
as a therapist, the most often the scenario that comes into my office most often, because I have a
Okay.
practice that was predominantly focused on women's issues. So I'm not saying this is not exclusive
Okay.
to women, but the story that um, high achieving women give me is, it's impossible to do everything that's expected of me, and I don't know how much longer I can keep up the pretense that I've got it all under control. So that's not
Yeah.
unusual. And well, first of all, as we all know, but we forget, we don't have it all under control anyway. It's yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Let's
right.
cut the lie there. Let's be
Control
honest. Yeah.
is absolutely an
Right.
illusion. Control is an illusion, but we'll die trying to maintain that illusion if we're not careful.
Got it. Yeah. Wow. Well, Trish, you can sense my interest in this topic. I think you can tell I would love to talk for another hour about it, but we just need to wrap up this show because it's a short format podcast. I do want to ask you though, before I let you go, Trish, would you tell us a little bit about your new book that's coming out? The title is By the Book, a Bible Belt memoir of growing up good and Southern. I love that title. Can you give us just a smidgen of it, what it's about and
Sure,
what prompted
gladly.
you to write it?
No matter what happens out there in the bigger world, it remains a challenge to learn how to belong and also how to be true to yourself. So this collection of
Mm,
stories is full of
yeah.
some outrageous stories, some very funny stories, some quite heartfelt. It's the story of my butting heads with my extremely religious dad, and then coming together toward the end of his life. Uh, it's the story of
Mm-hmm.
branching out on my own in my career and being quite successful. It's the story of romance found and lost and found again. It's the story of
Oh,
being a mom to a single mom and then a stepmom, and how the only way that we can really navigate uh, mothering with success is to give up on the outrageous expectations that are placed on us, and then be free just
yeah.
to love them.
Yeah. Yeah. You've certainly whet our appetite with that smidgen sample from your book. There's a lot of people that are going to be extremely anxious and eager to read that. I can't wait to read it myself. So, Trish, I just want to thank you so much for just being so authentic today, for being so candid in the wisdom that you shared. This is not some surface thing. I mean, your wisdom cuts deep here, and it's important. And I just really appreciate the authentic and vulnerable way that you brought this to our audience and our wisdom conversation today, Trish.
Oh, you're welcome, and I'm really delighted to have some time to visit with you, Skip. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Wow, that goes by incredibly fast, doesn't it? Time flies when you're hacking wisdom. I hope you're left wanting more. Sync up with us again next time on The Main Thing for 9 more minutes of wisdom. Let's be honest, it's not easy to ask for help or talk about money. Hey, it's Skip here, and many listeners like you continue to ask me, what do you need to continue to develop and build this show? Well, for context, it takes our team about 15 hours of work to produce each one of these packages of wisdom that we deliver to you in podcast form. Really, what we need as we enter season 3 of this show is funding to cover our costs. So in response, I formed a site on the Patreon platform where you can elect to become a supporting patron of the Main Thing podcast. Now, there are 3 levels you might consider, ranging from $6 to $27 per month. It's all safe and secure, and you can explore the options at patreon.com/themainthingpodcast. Now, how will we use the funding? Funds provided by you and other patrons will be used to defray the costs of production, promotion, and our recurring technology expenses each month. In short, you will be helping to keep this pipeline of wisdom flowing. Thanks.